All right, here we've got notes for day 10. We are going to be doing some absolute value equations, you guys. So a lot of this beginning stuff should be pretty review. I just wanted to remind you that an absolute value represents a distance away from 0 on the number line, and it's always a positive number. And so if you need to pause the video to copy this down, go ahead and do so. But for this very first example, the absolute value of -5 is here. How many spaces away from 0 is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is 5 spaces. I was off a little bit. 5 spaces. And we always represent distance in a positive number. Number 2, 4. 4 is right here. How many spaces away from 0 is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 spaces. And so you can kind of copy these down really quickly. The absolute value of a fraction that's negative is the same exact fraction, just positive. And it's okay if you give me decimal answers as well, but you can go ahead and copy those down if you want to. When you start with 5 minus 7, you get -2, and keep that inside the absolute value bars, and your answer is +2. Work inside the bars here first. -2 plus 6 is 4, and the absolute value of 4 is 4. For these, what we need to do, this is actually a little bit interesting, but can you kind of work backwards? And can you tell me what two numbers are 5 spaces away from 0? +5 is 5 spaces away from 0, but also -5 is 5 spaces away from 0. Look at my number line up here. If I would put 5 on this number line right here, this number happens to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away from 0. This number also happens to be 5 spaces away from 0. So there's actually two numbers there when you solve the equation that give you the absolute value of 5. So for number 8, there are two numbers that are 2 spaces away from 0, 2 and -2. There are two numbers that are 8 spaces away from 0, 8 and -8. So the cool thing about this is when we're solving absolute value equations, what we're going to do is we're going to have two different equations to solve. One of them equals a positive number and one of them equals a negative number. Be very careful about number 10. Notice the absolute value bars here. I highlighted those in red. An absolute value equation cannot be equal to a negative number because remember, an absolute value represents a distance and a distance is not going to be negative. So put like a star next to this one, highlight it. We'll put that on our note cards together. But I do want to show you how to solve some of these equations. I'm just going to do a couple of them and then we'll keep working on it in class, okay? So for number 11, I see an absolute value. And I see a positive number, so that means it works. And what that means is I'm going to actually write two different equations. I'm going to just drop these bars. I'm going to get rid of them and copy the exact equation exactly the way that I see it without the bars. So -3x minus 10 equals 1. That's equation number 1. So the first thing I do is I recopy exactly this, drop the bars. And the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to recopy all of this, and I'm going to make this one a negative. -3x minus 10 equals -1. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking this one, and I am writing it here, and I am writing the inverse there, -1. Now I just have to solve both of these equations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to add 10. Here's my equals. I'm going to add 10. So I get -3x equals, when I do 1 plus 10, I get 11. And now I just have to divide both sides by -3. That cancels my 3's there. -11 over 3 doesn't reduce, so you can leave it like that. And that's one of my answers. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to solve this equation over here. So I've got plus 10 on both sides. -3x equals, when I do -1 plus 10, I get 9. It's the same thing as 10 minus 1. I'm going to divide both sides by -3. X equals -3. Those are my two different answers because remember, just like these up here, I had two different answers when I solved this equation. There were two answers there. These are a little bit different. They're usually not the same number because we have to like manipulate, and this is +1 and this is -1 here, but we are going to get two answers for each of these equations. Okay, I'm just going to do number 12 and then I will stop there and we'll work on the back page together. So again, this is another absolute value equation, and I have a whole positive number here. That means that I can do this one. I'm going to split it, and I'm going to write it as two different equations. Number one, just recopy exactly this, getting rid of the absolute value bars. So I got 2x plus 1 equals 11, and I'm going to solve that. On the other side, what I'm going to do is recopy this exactly the way it is, but change the 11 to negative. So remember, I've got a positive 11 here. Keep it, switch it. And those are my two different equations that I'm going to solve. I'm going to go right away with this one. I'm going to subtract 1 everywhere, and I get 2x equals 11 minus 1 is 10. Divide 2, x equals 5. That's one of my answers. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to start by subtracting 1. Get 2x equals, when I do negative 11 minus 1, double check your calculator. Be very careful. You get negative 12. Divide 2 everywhere. X equals negative 6. Those are my two answers. And again, remember the strategy for these is you're going to write the exact same equation that you see without the absolute value bars. And the only thing that changes here, this is the exact same. This changes to negative. Same thing here. Write exactly this and solve it, and then on this side the 11 changes to negative, and that gives you your two answers for each of these. Thanks for watching, you guys. In class we're going to do the back page.